Major upset, guys. Major upset.
Uh-oh.
I mean, like, this is UMBC over Virginia, upset.
Whoa.
Tom Pelissero zooming in with a hat backwards.
Oh, what
red
doing?
flag.
Oh,
Tom,
he just dropped on my board.
Tom,
This is
Different
it.
show. Different
Tom,
show.
I gotta be honest with you, Tom. You know, and again, your information is obviously what separates you, okay? But what also separates you, you're taking away a significant part of your brand and your look
that's
right now,
true.
Tom.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on?
I'm trying something out, Rich. You've got the whole David Caruso CSI Miami with the glasses coming on and off.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that when I'm really digging deep for some insight, maybe I just give one of these.
See, that was next level, Tom.
This is
Next
part of
level.
my annual
is it?
routine where I don't cut my hair through the spring.
Oh.
This year, I think I'm really going for it, Rich. I think I'm going to go all the way till the start of training camp just to see what happens. I have not had much of a party in the back since middle school, and I'm thinking maybe I bring back just a little flow, little bit that I can
So, but
I don't know, Rich. There's a lot to think about.
Nice. Yeah, that's like full Sam Darnold, Josh McCown, you know, Jets hair thing going on that you're going on right there. Tom, I don't mean to ask or pry, but are you deemed mission critical by the National Football League? Did you have to sign an NDA to see the schedule? Are you deemed mission critical or no?
When we get into the things, Rich, that
that's
I
a no.
cannot
He is
report,
not mission critical.
when we are
no
talking about
question.
the schedule, there you go. That's you, Rich.
That's
right
me.
there.
I'm mission critical. I had to sign an NDA. Are you not mission critical?
Hit that chord from the Who song.
That's right. Yeah, I know.
think
It's too
right
expensive
on.
for us to do.
Yeah, if I play
Tom.
that.
Yeah.
No, anything that I can't report, I actively try not to know, lest it slip out in some venue, and then I get fired for knowing some Week 5 Titans matchup. Not worth it. So I stay away. I'm going to be as excited as everybody else to find out the 4 games that have not already been announced.
So you are saying you are willfully turning down the opportunity to be mission critical, is what you're saying, for self-preservation purposes.
Schedule notes, cannot tip draft picks, cannot break where Super Bowls are, drafts are. So I just sit back, I enjoy it like everyone else, and then just, make sure that I'm educated on the most likely scenarios. So I'm ready to talk the moment that they become publicly available.
Tom Pelissero, great way to basically admit you're not mission critical, but that's okay, Tom. It's fine. It's really
I'm also
fine.
getting a jump start here. I will be at Game 5 tonight in Minnesota. Warriors. It is a whiteout night, so I figured I'd be ready right here.
Wow.
Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show, everybody. Okay. What's the order of business right now? Is it we're waiting on Rodgers, or you're just done with that? Are you even texting people about this story at all, or what? Are you?
It's the single biggest loose ends, and it impacts some of the other loose ends, such as Kirk Cousins. And so, absolutely, it's the one of the driving storylines through the course of this offseason. It'll go on as long as Aaron Rodgers lets it go on. What I would tell you is, it has not changed in the past 6 weeks. Everything has been pointing. If you just look at this logically, forget information for a second. That's my lane, but let's just look at this logically.
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers has one team right now that really needs a starting quarterback. It's in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers took one visit. It was to the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers has been throwing with one wide receiver out in California. It is DK Metcalf, who is a member of the Steelers. And Pittsburgh, other than drafting Will Howard late in the draft, they've absolutely operated like a team that anticipates, maybe not knowing 100%, but anticipates that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a member of the Steelers and their starting quarterback come week 1. We also know this about Aaron. He's never liked off-season workouts. He showed up, for a lot of them back during his Green Bay days, but when it came to the collective bargaining negotiations in 2020, he was the loudest voice saying we shouldn't have to do anything until August 1st. There should be no voluntary stuff. There should be no mandatory minicamp. August 1st should be the start. He lost on that point because there just wasn't a lot of support for it, particularly because it didn't make sense for the union to leverage something that players already don't have to do. But, for Aaron, he's never felt like those things were necessary here. And so is it the week of minicamp? Is it the day after minicamp? Is it the week before training camp? Is it the day before training camp begins? Somewhere in that bandwidth, I believe. I don't know this for a fact, Rich, because we're talking about the enigma of the NFL here, but I anticipate Aaron Rodgers is going to end up committing to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that it's a matter of when, not if. He could wake up tomorrow and decide to go to Egypt for 3 months and put his football career behind him. I don't know that, but I would say all signs continue to point right now to Aaron Rodgers being the Steelers quarterback in 2025.
So let me ask you this. Riddle me this, Tom Pelissero, who, again, is joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show with the Dan Quinn look. The Saints, sir. Nice. Any shot the Saints give him a call now that Derek Carr is officially not going to be their quarterback, retired, gone, and they've got a very green quarterback room, including the kid they drafted in this year's draft in Green Bay. Any shot the Saints give a call to Aaron Rodgers? A FaceTime, obviously, to Aaron Rodgers.
Until Aaron Rodgers commits to playing somewhere, you never say never on anything. It's the NFL in 2025. We've seen much wilder stuff than that happen. I would say, based on what I know about the Saints, they've been aware of the retirement possibility for over a month with Derek Carr. They've known that there's an issue with his shoulder. They've known that Derek Carr, really even through the conversations about his contract and otherwise, didn't express a great deal of interest necessarily in wanting to continue to play for the Saints. And that's why they proceeded the way they did. That's why they drafted Tyler Shuck, who, granted, didn't start a ton of games, but did play 7 years of college football and has a foundation in a lot of different offenses, and his, perhaps the most pro-ready quarterback in this entire draft, just in terms of his knowledge base, the responsibility he had at the line of scrimmage in Louisville and otherwise. But also, Kellen Moore coming in. They still have veterans on the roster. Tyrann Mathieu still there, Cam Jordan, Demario Davis. But they're getting young at a lot of spots really quickly here. They've drafted quarterbacks 3 years in a row, different coaching staff now, but same front office. They drafted Jake Haener. They drafted Spencer Rattler. Now they drafted Tyler Shuck. Somewhere within those three guys, they're hoping, because these are all throwing darts at the dartboard when it comes to the quarterback position, maybe one of these guys ends up being a dude, and you don't take Tyler Shuck with the 40th overall pick if you don't believe this guy at least has a chance to be your starting quarterback. The Saints are always a pedal to the metal type of team. They've been that way for years. It's max out the salary cap. It's mortgage future draft picks. There's never a rebuild. There is never a burn it down and build it back up. They are always go, go, go. And certainly they feel like they're in a division where they've got the opportunity to compete right away. I don't get the sense that Aaron Rodgers is going to end up in New Orleans. There is perhaps, you could certainly argue, a clearer path for Aaron Rodgers to get into the playoffs in the NFC, and particularly in the NFC South. But that's about the only argument for going to New Orleans. It would still, again, I anticipate Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Steelers quarterback. But until he actually signs somewhere and makes a commitment, again, he's the enigma. Never say never.
Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show. The quarterback race in Cleveland, we saw guys get out there, wing it around a little bit. We even heard from the two rookies in front of a microphone. What are you hearing out of Cleveland first blush with this situation, Tom?
I would start here. The pick for the Browns was Dylan Gabriel. That was the quarterback they targeted. That was the guy they took in the third round. That absolutely was Kevin Stefanski's guy. It sounds like that was also Andrew Berry's guy. The Shedeur Sanders pick was because you're in the fifth round and you've got a guy who certainly has higher than fifth round talent. Again, it's a dart throw. You're taking as many bites at the apple as you possibly can and hoping that one of these guys works out. Why not take a stab at a guy in the fifth round? You've got Kenny Pickett there. You've got Joe Flacco there. I would say, just going into this, you would say Joe Flacco has the leg up because the coaches know him, because he knows that system. He's functioned in that offense before. Kevin Stefanski's gone to the playoffs with him. He knows that he can trust Joe. Realistically, Joe's probably not starting 17 games this year. He's been a very durable quarterback through the course of his career. But, the odds that at 41 years old, I believe he is, that he's going to play the entire season, you'd probably say that that's an unlikely type of a scenario. So based on what I hear, it sounds like it's wide open. It sounds like they're going in with open minds into this competition. The real question is going to be, it's one thing and I know that Kevin Stefanski said, don't read too much into the reps and rookie minicamp. It's very, very early. There's plenty of reps to go around. Well, as you get deeper into the summer and those veterans come back with Flacco and with Pickett, Deshaun Watson's not going to be ready for anything in the offseason. We'll see if he ultimately is able to do anything on the field even during the course of the regular season here. But when you've got 4 guys, there's reasons a lot of teams philosophically want to pare that down and really roll with 3 in training camp. So very quickly as we get into the OTA portion, you'll see how they're dividing those reps. You'll see what the order is. I would anticipate just going in based on how, these things tend to go. It'll be Flacco, then Pickett, then Gabriel, and then Shedeur Sanders getting the 4th reps or splitting the 3rd reps or however they do it here. But that's got a chance to evolve. And by the time we get to training camp, I would certainly think that Kevin Stefanski is going to want to have a real good idea of, okay, here's the 2 or 3 guys we've got to give those reps to. Does that mean that you're cutting somebody or trading somebody? Not necessarily. But it does mean you're going to be shifting those reps in a certain direction. That'll give us an early read on how they're looking at that position going into 2025.
Well, I don't know. What do we give, guys? Mid-June till we hear the Shedeur's not that bad stories. Shedeur is not, we're not seeing any indication of any of those, off the field, look at me, red flags. He's actually a pro. He knows the grindstone. You already getting those stories coming out of Cleveland, then, Tom? Or am I just, am I front-loading it right now?
Well, I would say this, nobody in terms of Shedeur Sanders' approach, his work ethic, his study habits, nobody said a bad word about that through the course of the process. It was a lot of other different things that went into the Shedeur evaluation. So I have no doubt that he's going to come in and he's going to do things the right way in terms of how he is in meetings and how he is on the practice field. I would say, let's see what's happening if we get into June and July and Shedeur is, getting the 3rd, 4th reps. Maybe he rises before that. If he doesn't, then I think, Rich, you're going to hear less of the, boy, Shedeur's not that bad. And what that's very quickly going to turn into is, why isn't Shedeur getting more reps? Why isn't he getting a real opportunity to win the job, which you wouldn't have that conversation about any other 5th-round pick. And that's one of the many reasons that certain teams were a little bit skittish based on their experience through the pre-draft process and knowing when you bring in a guy who's that high profile, it's going to turn the entire conversation surrounding a quarterback competition that should be relatively straightforward. But is Shedeur Sanders going to get his opportunity to show what he can do? Can he beat out Dylan Gabriel? Can he beat out Kenny Pickett? Can he beat out Joe Flacco? There's nothing saying that he can't, but again, we'll get a better idea once those veterans are out on the practice field, how they're dividing those reps and trying to manage a quarterback competition. Because I know I've heard coaches say before, there's no real quarterback competitions. We all know going in kind of how this is going to go. You very quickly get that sense. Let's see how Kevin Stefanski sets it up through the course of the process. Who gets those reps in June, July, and in the preseason games? All
right, a few minutes left to have with Tom Pelissero. We talk about unicorns quite a bit. Looks like we have one in Baltimore, Tom. A 30-year-old running back getting paid like Derrick Henry just got paid. Walk me through the Ravens' mindset here, Tom.
Well, Derrick Henry, there's no doubt, was one of the best bargains in football last year. It's a 2-year, $18 million deal that he signed a year ago in March. He was talked about as an MVP candidate for a good chunk of the season. The deal was front-loaded, so he made $11 million in 2024. He was only due $7 million in 2025. So really, this is about bringing Derrick Henry back to that same level of compensation. He gets 25 fully guaranteed over the next 2 years. That's really the commitment. And then in the final year of the deal, which is in 2027, then he's due $12 million. So it's a 2-year, $30 million extension on paper. That's $15 million per year. But based on the 7 that he was already on the books for, what this does is it means he's averaging 12.5 over the next 2 years. That's really solid running back money. It's not off the charts. It's not Saquon. It's not Christian McCaffrey. But you're right, for a player who's on what has long been considered the wrong side of age 30, good for Derrick Henry, a guy that a lot of the league passed on. Let's call it what it is last year, Rich. Not a lot of people were making offers to Derrick Henry. The Ravens get him for $11 million last season, and now they're more than happy to pay him $25 over these next 2.
Well, and it's close to Trey Hendrickson money. What's going on with him, man?
I would say there are a lot of layers to what's going on with Trey Hendrickson. We know that he's been unhappy with his compensation for several years. I mean, you go back to 2023, he signed a 1-year extension, which was kind of curious for a player in that position who had 2 years left on his deal, but that got him a pay bump back in 2023. 2024 comes around. He produced, he had like 17 sacks that season in 23. He says, I want to be traded because they're not going to pay me. Well, he ended up rescinding that. He showed up. He went through training camp. He led the league in sacks. Now he comes back again this offseason and says, hey, I want to be traded again. He goes able to go out there into the environment, talk to other teams, have his agent talk to other teams. There was real interest in Trey Hendrickson, but the Bengals said, we're not going to consider moving this guy unless we get a first-round pick. My understanding is that they had a second-round pick and an additional pick on the table for Trey Hendrickson. That was not enough for them to consider moving him. So now the draft has come and gone. Never say never on the trade possibility, but it seems like that ship has sailed. So now you're down to the team saying, we've got the leverage of you are on the books for $16 million in 2025. We don't have to do anything. We're willing to do this. Trey Hendrickson is not trying to reset the market. He's not trying to get $40.1 million and beat Myles Garrett. But he is looking at Max Crosby, who's around that 35 number, and Danielle Hunter, who just got a 1-year, I think it was $34 or $35 million extension, or I think it was 35.5 actually. And he's going, I need to be in that territory. And based upon his actions alone, Rich, that tells you the Bengals are not anywhere near offering him that type of money. And you can make intellectual arguments on both sides of this. You know, he's 30 years old. That is old by some position standards. That is not particularly old by the standards of being able to sustain and have more years of productivity as a pass rusher. The Bengals, who is a team that has had a history of taking a hardline stance and being tough negotiators against players, they've bent some of their rules in recent years to get the Joe Burrow contract done, to get the Jamar Chase contract done. They are not right now bending on, what's been their history in terms of getting a Trey Hendrickson deal done. So, this week was odd. There's no doubt about it, Rich, for Trey to release a statement a couple of days ago, basically not even saying, laying down the gauntlet, but basically just complaining and saying, hey, they're not even talking to me right now. And that part seems to be accurate from a contract perspective. There have been conversations, but there's a difference between talking and negotiating. They really haven't been negotiating from the sense that I get in months here. And so if you're Trey Hendrickson, you're going, the only thing I can do now, and he said this in his press conference yesterday, is withhold my services, be noisy and say, I'm not showing up for that number. The Bengals leverage is, well, if you want to play, you either take what we're offering you or you come in and you play for the 1 year that you're on the books for right now. Hendrickson saying, I'm not doing that part of it. We've still got time here, Rich. We got 2.5 months until training camp. But Trey Hendrickson has been pretty dug into this point. Again, not trying to reset the market, but wanting to get paid for what he's been over the past couple of years, which is the most productive pass rusher, at least in terms of sacks and quarterback pressures. You can look at all the numbers in the entire NFL. He's been to 4 straight Pro Bowls. He's been a difference maker for a Bengals defense that didn't have a whole lot else going for them last year. What is a number that the Bengals are comfortable getting to? Does coming in there and holding a press conference while practice is going on, does that help you with the powers that be? Like I said, there are a lot of layers to this, Rich, and right now we are not close to a resolution on Trey Hendrickson.
Got a minute left. Your next home game, other than the Timberwolves game you're going to tonight, is the owners are coming to Minneapolis next Tuesday and Wednesday. Is there going to be a tush push vote? What do you think? It was tabled.
They are having active conversations about that. There's certainly been strong feelings on both sides of that argument here. Right. We got to see what the final language is going to be. That's not yet been brought forward to the clubs. That's going to make an impact on exactly what owners are or are not willing to do. There's been talk about reviving the rule about pushing and pulling, which has a lot of it's been off the books for 20 plus years. But the reason it's been off the books for 20 plus years was it was hard to officiate when plays got downfield, and what's a push, what's a pull versus, moving the pile, hitting the pile. Those are complicated things. There's also the seeding argument, Rich, too. The reseeding based solely on record and not division finish. That was also tabled. So potentially 2 things. Usually in May, we don't have a lot of high-profile rules conversations. We could have a couple, and it'll be interesting to see the tenor of those conversations as we get into Tuesday and Wednesday next week out in Eagan, Minnesota.
All right, and I got 30 more seconds. Let's mix it up here. NBA, NFL. Do you think the NFL would ever institute a draft lottery? Yes or no? Tom?
I don't think so. It's going to be a conversation, but I think for precisely the reasons that you saw the other night between the conspiracy theories and the fact that the worst teams don't have that instant turnaround. We know this, Rich. How many times has the NFL talked about how many teams go from worst to first?
They love it.
The level of parity over the course of time.
Correct.
It's hard for me to imagine in a sport that, frankly, is a lot harder to tank in than the NBA, that the NFL is suddenly going to say, all right, Titans, you had the worst record in the league last year. And think about it, we had a lot of drama last year, Rich. The Giants knocked themselves out of that number one pick. The Patriots knocked themselves out of that number one pick. That's what I mean in terms of it's hard to tank. It really is, because the coaches and the players are not thinking in that regard, and you can't just roll out your 12th man to jack up 23s at the end of a game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are injury situations. It's a dangerous game. You can hold guys out, but it's hard to truly tank. I don't think the NFL, in other words, has a reason to do it. And I think also, just to apply the standards of the NBA to the NFL, that would be the equivalent of the Titans having the worst record in the league, their fans being able to get excited of, hey, we might be able to turn this thing around really quickly with Cam Ward. Instead, it's, oh, just kidding. The Seahawks just got the number one pick.
Yeah.
They now are getting Cam Ward. They went 10-7 last year with Mike McDonald, and they're building a hell of a defense out there and have playmakers all over the place. They now get the number one pick. That just makes it so much harder to get those instant turnarounds. That's one of the things that makes the NFL great. Again, I'm sure somebody will propose it eventually here, but I have never heard that had true momentum in the NFL.
And if you're Cam
Tom
Young, where would you rather be?
Tom Pelissero. Doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Doesn't matter. Tom Pelissero, well done. You got a great head on your shoulders, even though you're covering up your hair. That's like having
appreciate that, Rich.
That's
Lots to think on here.
That's like having a six-pack of abs and wearing a sweatshirt.
Exactly.
What are you doing? Thanks, Tom. That's Tom Pelissero, everybody.
It's a baby.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.